Hey guys, tonight we're moonwalking directly into one of the strangest chapters in pop culture and medical history. The final sleepless nights of Michael Jackson, the king of pop, the man with the single white glove, and, apparently, the only person on Earth who thought sleeping like an anesthetized walrus was a good idea. We're talking about the truly wild story of Propofol, the hospital-grade milk of amnesia that became Michael's bizarre bedtime companion. So before you slide under your blanket, ideally not with an IV drip, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Maybe share what time you're listening and whether you're still awake or already half zombified. But, only do all that if you actually enjoy what I'm doing here. Now, dim those lights, set your phone to Do Not Disturb, maybe turn on a fan for that sweet white noise, and most importantly, make sure there are no doctors named Conrad lurking around your house. Get comfortable, snuggle in, and let's prepare for a bedtime journey even weirder than your recurring anxiety dream about showing up to work wearing only a fedora. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what it's like to have so much money that your personal chef is a board-certified anesthesiologist? Do you think you'd sleep better if your bedtime routine included surgical-grade knockout juice? Have you ever tried counting sheep and then realised you'd rather just hire a nurse to sedate them first? Could you survive the pressure of being the most famous person alive if it meant your nightstand was stocked like a pharmacy clearance bin? And just how many doctors does it take to make sure you never, ever, ever get a good night's sleep? Congratulations. You've just woken up in Los Angeles, June 2009. Your pajamas are custom tailored, your fans are outside, your bodyguard has a bodyguard, and your sleep schedule. Well, let's just say the Grim Reaper is on retainer. Let's begin. You would think being Michael Jackson meant living the dream, but your dream is stuck in sleep mode. It's 2 a.m. and you're pacing the halls of Neverland, counting Grammys instead of sheep. For the richest, most famous insomniac on Earth, sleep is a distant rumour, right up there with normal childhood and regular nose. You try everything. Soft music, you literally invented the world's best-selling lullaby, and even that won't work on you. The notes to Heal the World echo off marble statues and a vintage carousel horse as you do another lap around the grand staircase. You imagine normal people, the ones who don't get fan mail at 3 a.m, peacefully drooling into their pillows. You, meanwhile, are staring at a ceiling mural that cost more than most people's houses, thinking, what if I just called Paul McCartney again? Not for a duet, just for some advice on napping. You have the resources of a small country. You could order a team of sleep scientists to build a mattress out of actual clouds and orphaned swan feathers, and it still wouldn't make a difference. There's something about being Michael Jackson. Something in the way your mind never shuts off. Every day you're managing an empire. Rehearsals, lawyers, accountants, stylists, chefs, animal trainers. There's always one more decision, one more headline, one more rehearsal to get perfect. Insomnia becomes your most loyal fan, always in the front row, refusing to leave. You try to trick your brain with routines. Warm milk in a diamond goblet, pajamas pressed by a personal attendant. There's an oxygen chamber next to your bed, like something out of a Bond villain starter kit, just in case breathing regular air is the problem. Sometimes you run a hot bath, sometimes you moonwalk across the marble floor just to see if you've still got it. You do, but the only witness is a sleepy llama who doesn't look impressed. And then there's the clock. The one that glows in the darkness, always letting you know how far behind you are on sleep. 3 a.m. comes and goes. You scroll through your phone, a dangerous thing for anyone with insomnia, but especially for you. There are texts from relatives, business partners, old friends, the occasional random prince from a country you can't quite pronounce. You want to respond to everyone. You want to fix everything. The world is always awake for you, even when you desperately want it to shut off. You try reading, you try meditating, you try counting your blessings, but somewhere after multi-platinum records and the pet chimpanzee, you lose track and start reciting the lyrics to Billie Jean instead. Somewhere outside, a peacock shrieks, and for a second, you're grateful for the distraction. Anything's better than the gnawing silence of a house too big for rest. On the rare occasion you do drift off, it's never peaceful. You dream in Technicolor. Stadiums packed with faces, endless mirrors, flashes of cameras, swirling spotlights that never quite dim. Sometimes you're back on stage, and the crowd is silent, waiting for you to sing, waiting for you to wake up. Sometimes you're just falling through bed sheets, through tabloid headlines, through a sleep so thin you can see right through it to the worry waiting beneath. Eventually the sun starts to rise over Neverland. The staff begins to stir. The world expects you to be a king again, even if you never got to be a sleeper. You splash your face with cold water, adjust your glove, and tell yourself that tonight will be different. Tonight, you'll finally find the secret. Tonight, you'll sleep. You won't. But you'll try. And in the kingdom of the sleepless, trying is as close as you'll get to a dream come true. Every night the pressure builds, concert tours, lawsuits, tabloid headlines, fans who'd steal your trash just to smell your shampoo. No amount of lavender oil or whale sounds can drown out the white-hot anxiety of being an icon. Your calendar is a horror movie. Your to-do list, written in hieroglyphs. On paper, you have everything you ever dreamed of. Mansions, Grammys, an army of personal chefs and stylists, your own private theme park. But when the lights go out, it's just you, alone with the relentless thump of your own heart and the knowledge that someone, somewhere, wants a piece of you. Sometimes it's a lawyer, sometimes it's a tabloid, sometimes it's just a bored superfan with a drone. You try to tell yourself you've earned this, the fame, the responsibility, the entire circus orbiting around you. But most nights, it doesn't feel like you're standing on stage at the Super Bowl. It feels like you're clinging to the top of a lightning rod during a hurricane, hoping no one notices how hard your hands are shaking. Every little detail matters. Every phone call is a potential crisis. Every new business deal is another round of high-stakes Jenga, where the whole tower could collapse because some accountant in the next room put the wrong number on a receipt. Your staff does their best to keep the stress away, to cushion you in a bubble of soft voices and hand-scented towels. But even the best bubble can't muffle the sound of impending doom. You hear things. Lawyers whispering in the hall, the gentle click of paparazzi cameras in the bushes, the distant hum of helicopters circling overhead, hoping to catch you in pajamas. You wonder if Elvis felt like this, haunted, hunted, and unable to nap. Even your dreams are stressful. They aren't dreams, really. More like management meetings that play on an endless loop. In one, you're late for a concert, but the stage is a courtroom. In another, you try to dance, but your feet are stuck in cement, and every time you moonwalk, a lawyer pops out and hands you a subpoena. Your mind is a hamster wheel, and you're the only hamster wearing a single glove. There's no escaping the paperwork, the obligations, the tidal wave of expectations. There's always a contract to review, a relative to appease, a friendly reporter waiting for a quote. You develop an allergy to your own phone. It vibrates and you flinch, convinced it's bad news in a different ringtone. Your inbox is a tomb of unresolved problems, and even the spam emails seem to know too much. Fans, of course, are both a blessing and a marathon-level endurance test. They love you so much it hurts, sometimes literally. They camp outside the gates, they sneak through hedges, they build shrines out of souvenir popcorn buckets and weep on the front lawn. They want to save you, fix you, meet you, and occasionally marry you. Their love is a tidal wave, and you're standing on the shore in a sequined jacket, hoping not to drown. And always, somewhere in the background, is the looming spectre of the comeback. Every interview, every social media rumour, every impromptu press conference turns into a referendum on whether you've still got it. You're expected to be timeless, ageless, moonwalking forever, immune to time and lawsuits and the gravity of your own exhaustion. But the truth is, gravity always wins. You try to relax. You try to meditate, to listen to nature sounds, to imagine yourself floating on a cloud. But the cloud is just your tax attorney in disguise, and you wake up more anxious than before. This is the secret no one wants to admit about fame. It isn't glamorous, not in the middle of the night, not when the headlines get uglier and the schedules get tighter and sleep becomes another line item you keep moving to tomorrow. The world calls you the king, but even kings have nightmares, and yours always seem to end with someone banging on the bedroom door asking for just one more thing. Forget herbal tea. Out here, bedtime means experimental pharmaceuticals and enough supplements to put a racehorse into a coma. Your bedroom looks less like a sanctuary, more like a CVS that crashed into a spa. You try to start simple at first. A little melatonin here, a dab of lavender oil there, but it's Los Angeles, and nothing stays simple for long. Soon, your nightstand is littered with bottles in every shade of pastel, one for sleep, one for relaxation, one that supports cellular harmony and tastes like the inside of a lawnmower. You'd ask your doctor about drug interactions, but by now, your doctors are mostly just sending each other nervous emojis. Welcome to the world of celebrity sleep hygiene, where every solution is high-tech, high-concept, and highly unregulated. Your assistant brings in the latest deep sleep sound machine, shaped like an alien egg and programmed by monks in Tibet. You try lying under a weighted blanket that costs more than your first car, but it only makes you feel like you're being tucked in by a large, anxious bear. Then comes the parade of specialists, sleep coaches, meditation experts, holistic healers, and one man who claims to be a circadian rhythm whisperer. They circle your house with clipboards, nodding gravely as they critique your feng shui and suggest rearranging the bed to face the magnetic north. Someone installs a Himalayan salt lamp the size of a boulder. It glows gently in the corner, radiating the distinct aura of overpayment. You do your best to follow the advice. Blue light blocking glasses, blackout curtains, phone in the freezer. You drink teas made of roots, bark, and ingredients only available to people with the SAG card. You've tried binaural beats, ASMR, and something called quantum hypnotherapy, which basically means paying a stranger to whisper compliments at your subconscious. But none of it seems to work. Every new attempt only leads to another consultation, another Amazon delivery, another late-night infomercial binge. You try an oxygen bar, a float tank, and when things get truly desperate, a device you strap to your forehead that claims to repattern your alpha waves. All it does is leave a dent in your hair. Sleep clinics get involved. They wire you up like a cyborg, stick sensors to your face and fingers, and watch as you toss and turn on a plastic mattress that smells faintly of cleaning fluid and existential despair. The printout the next morning confirms what you already knew. Your REM sleep is an endangered species, and your dreams look like deleted scenes from a sci-fi movie. When science fails, Hollywood does what it does best. Improvises. You hear about a new supplement on set, a sleep stack that's popular with the A-list crowd. Soon, you're blending powders in a blender that sounds like a jet engine, hoping to alchemize yourself into a coma. The smoothie tastes like sadness and bananas. Still awake? Might as well wash it down with some imported cherry bark extract, endorsed by at least 3 Instagram models and one guy who once met Tom Cruise at a Whole Foods. There's always a new fad: moon milk, reishi mushroom shots, sleep bracelets made of biohacked copper, and pillows that claim to balance your chakras and your checkbook. Your bedroom smells like an apothecary exploded at Burning Man. And when all else fails, there's the nuclear option. The kind of prescription that comes with a pharmacist's raised eyebrow and a gentle warning. Hollywood doesn't do things halfway. Why settle for a cup of chamomile when you can have something administered via IV, with a price tag that includes both a private nurse and a confidentiality agreement. So you close your eyes, surrounded by glowing gadgets and bottles that promise restorative tranquility, and realize that somehow all the weird science in the world can't make you sleep like a regular person. Out here, bedtime is just another performance, only the audience is a collection of blinking lights and the ghost of good intentions. A rotating cast of medical professionals comes and goes, nutritionists, dermatologists, personal trainers, and eventually a man whose main qualification is doesn't ask too many questions. Dr. Conrad Murray at your service, sleep consultant by night, court defendant by day. Before he arrives, you've already met everyone else. The wellness crowd parades through your life like contestants on a very expensive game show. One doctor wants to optimize your diet. Another wants to optimize your posture. A third wants to optimize your aura. They speak in soothing voices, nod thoughtfully, and send invoices that look like small novels. You smile, you listen, you try. Nothing changes. You're still awake at 3 a.m, staring at the ceiling, negotiating with your own heartbeat. You don't need more advice. You need sleep. Real sleep. The kind that shuts the lights off without asking follow-up questions. And that's how Dr. Murray enters the picture. Quietly, efficiently, and without the dramatic flourish of the others. He doesn't lecture. He doesn't meditate. He doesn't suggest a journal. He listens to you say, "I just need to sleep," and replies with the medical equivalent of a shrug. This is how the audition goes. No panel, no callback, just availability. He shows up at night, when the house is quiet and the anxiety is loud. He carries a black bag that looks reassuringly professional, like something you'd see on a hospital drama right before the commercial break. He asks how you're feeling. You say tired. You always say tired. He nods, because tired is the only credential that matters here. There's something comforting about the simplicity of it. No theories, no lifestyle changes, just solutions. You've spent years being managed by people who tell you what you should feel. Dr. Murray asks what you want. And what you want is silence, darkness, unconsciousness. The kind of rest that doesn't involve dreams about courtrooms and flashing cameras. He's not flashy. He's not famous. He doesn't treat you like a myth or a headline. He treats you like a patient, which feels refreshingly normal in a life that hasn't been normal since childhood. You trust him quickly, maybe too quickly. But trust is easy when someone finally offers the one thing you've been begging for. Let's talk about the dynamic for a moment. You're the most famous person in the room. He is the only person in the room with a medical license and no visible plan to say no. Power does strange things in this situation. You ask. He complies. He adjusts. He reassures. Boundaries soften. Caution fades. Everyone wants to be helpful. No one wants to be the person who ruins bedtime. Your staff watches this arrangement with quiet unease. They're used to unusual requests, but this feels different. Doctors aren't supposed to come over at midnight. Hospitals aren't supposed to be portable. But no one speaks up. Speaking up is how you lose your job. Silence becomes the house policy. Each night starts to feel routine. The equipment comes out. The lights dim. The world narrows to a small circle of trust and a promise of rest. You close your eyes and wait for the moment when everything goes away. For once, it works, and that's the most dangerous part, because success is seductive. The first time you finally sleep, it feels like a miracle. The second time, it feels necessary. By the third, it feels non-negotiable. What started as an exception becomes a system. What started as help becomes dependence. You don't ask whether this is normal anymore. Normal stopped applying to your life decades ago. And Dr. Murray keeps showing up. On time, quiet, reliable. The kind of reliability that feels like relief right up until it feels like gravity. You tell yourself it's temporary, just until the tour starts, just until things calm down, just until tomorrow. Tomorrow keeps moving. He keeps coming. And somewhere between trust and exhaustion, the audition ends. There's no announcement, no closing credits, just a quiet understanding that this is the team now, and bedtime has officially crossed the line from strange to dangerous. You drift off again, believing that sleep at any cost is better than none at all. And for the moment, it feels true. Your medicine cabinet is the eighth wonder of the world. Diazepam, lorazepam, midazolam. If it ends in pam, you've probably taken it. And that's just the warm-up. Each bottle comes with a warning label, but who has time to read those when you're busy rewriting musical history? Most people have a shelf in the bathroom with a few painkillers and some expired cough syrup. You, on the other hand, have an entire pharmacy that looks like it was curated by someone with a grudge against sleep. The bottles line up in careful rows, brand names, generics, mystery samples with labels in languages you don't speak. There's a pill for every problem: anxiety, pain, swelling, nerves, nerves about nerves. At this point, your nightstand should qualify for its own DEA number. It's not just pills either. There are sprays, patches, creams, lozenges, and things you squirt under your tongue and then regret immediately. Your bedside water glass has the faint chemical bouquet of a swimming pool. Even your vitamins come in packs so complicated they need a colour-coded legend. Somewhere, a team of pharmacists is huddled over a whiteboard, trying to solve the equation that is your nightly routine. The routine itself would make a doctor weep. There's the sleeping pill for the first wave, the anti-anxiety med to keep you calm while the sleeping pill tries to work, and a backup pill just in case both fail. Sometimes you add a muscle relaxant to really seal the deal. On especially bad nights, you wash it all down with something that was technically developed for zoo animals, but is now trending with the Hollywood elite. It gets to the point where you start to forget which pills are for what. You have sticky notes on every bottle for sleep, not meetings, not with dairy. Do not take after midnight, gremlins. There's a running joke in the house that your evening routine sounds like the pre-flight checklist for a rocket launch. Clear for takeoff, you mumble, pressing a dissolvable tablet under your tongue. You tell yourself it's temporary, just until things slow down, just until the next concert, just until you catch up on sleep, as if sleep is something you can store up like old magazines. But every time you try to quit cold turkey, the insomnia comes back with a vengeance, dragging its friends. Restlessness, sweats, and that familiar feeling of being chased around your mansion by a swarm of caffeinated bees. There's an art to mixing it up too. Some nights you swap one pill for another, just to see if the dreams will be weirder, or the sleep will be deeper, or the morning will feel less like waking up from dental surgery. You become a sort of chemist, part mad scientist, part sleep-deprived game show host. The prize? Maybe 6 hours, maybe just 3, maybe an unplanned nap at noon. Doctors come and go, each one offering their own signature cocktail. One suggests a mild sedative, another adds a mood stabilizer. The latest swears by something off-label, which is medical code for let's hope the FDA isn't watching. If you ask too many questions, you get the gentle smile and the reminder, just trust the process. The process apparently is trial by Ambien, and let's not forget the aftermath. Mornings arrive with all the grace of a marching band. You wake up groggy, your mouth dry, your memory foggy around the edges. Coffee becomes your best friend and worst enemy. 1 cup to wake up, 2 more to recover from the first cup. By noon, you're oscillating between wired and wiped out, desperately trying to remember what rested is supposed to feel like. Your medicine cabinet might impress a pharmacist, but it's a museum of desperation. You keep searching for the magic fix, the golden ticket to dreamland, but the only thing that comes easy is a refill. You close your eyes, surrounded by pill bottles, and hope that tonight sleep will finally come, not because you forced it, but because you finally, briefly, forgot to fight it. It starts innocently enough, a whispered recommendation, a nod from a friend in the industry. Soon you're requesting milk for bedtime. Your doctor hesitates for almost 3 whole seconds before agreeing. Who needs REM sleep when you can have temporary unconsciousness, hospital edition? On paper, Propofol is for operating rooms, major surgery, dental extractions, anything that sounds like it ends in ectomy. But in your bedroom, it becomes just another part of the nightly routine, like brushing your teeth or tucking your chimpanzee in for the night. You're not chasing dreams anymore, you're chasing blackout. The first time it happens, you're a little nervous. There's a moment of disbelief. Are we really doing this? Is the IV hooked up? Is the nurse going to judge you or just ask for an autograph? But exhaustion is a cunning salesman. You'd sign anything if it meant just one night without the internal drumline of stress and expectation. And then, with a cool flush in your veins, the world tilts sideways and vanishes. No tossing, no turning, no 3-hour staring contest with the alarm clock. There's a soft fade to black, like someone lowering the curtain after a bad rehearsal. You don't dream. You don't even exist. For a few precious hours, your mind is an unplugged television, nothing but blissful static. But there's a catch, as there always is. You don't wake up rested exactly. You wake up rebooted, like a computer that's just survived a power surge. There's a metallic taste in your mouth and a sensation that something very expensive just happened inside your body. You look around for a bill or a receipt, just to confirm you're not actually in an ICU. And then the questions begin, mostly from your staff, sometimes from your own conscience. Is this safe? Is this normal? Is there any universe in which the phrase "just a little propofol to help me nod off" doesn't sound like the punchline to a cautionary tale? But it's LA, and in LA, cautionary tales are just networking opportunities. Your friends in the industry don't bat an eye. Oh, you're on the milk, my dermatologist knows a guy. Soon, the story spreads. The king of pop doesn't count sheep, he counts drip rates. The word milk takes on a new meaning at Neverland, and suddenly everyone from the gardener to the chef knows the drill. Dim the lights, clear the room, prep the IV. Bedtime in your house now requires as many steps as a NASA launch. The doctor, Dr. Murray, who will one day be famous for all the wrong reasons, starts treating your bedroom like a medical set piece. He checks your vitals, monitors your pulse, makes polite small talk about the weather, while drawing up enough anaesthetic to sedate a buffalo. There's paperwork, of course, but it's the kind that goes straight into a locked drawer. You start to crave that oblivion. Regular sleep feels flimsy by comparison, a pale imitation of true escape. And with every night your tolerance grows. The dose creeps up. The risk edges closer. Sometimes you wonder what your ancestors would think, watching their descendant get medically sedated by a man with a stethoscope and a questionable sense of boundaries. On the outside, you still look like the star, crisp, iconic, ready to rehearse, but inside, you know something's changed. Sleep isn't sleep anymore, it's an absence. You lose the little things, dreams, random midnight ideas, the gentle comfort of waking up naturally. But you tell yourself, it's worth it. You have shows to rehearse, fans to please, lawyers to dodge. You don't have time for ordinary solutions. You need the big guns. In the end, you become the world's most famous medical outlier, a case study, a walking argument for just because you can doesn't mean you should. But for now, all you want is one night without the weight of the world on your chest. You close your eyes, feel the cool rush, and drift away, trusting that someone, somewhere, is keeping track of your heartbeat. And if you're lucky, you'll wake up tomorrow with a vague memory of peace, a blank space where dreams used to be, and the brief seductive illusion that this time sleep was finally easy. Every night your bedroom is transformed into a makeshift operating theatre. Instead of a teddy bear, you've got a pulse oximeter. Your white noise machine, the beeping of medical monitors. Sweet dreams are made of this or not. Your bedtime routine is now the kind of thing OSHA would file a report about. You lie back in custom silk pajamas, surrounded by more medical hardware than your average emergency room. A rolling IV stand sits next to the bed, draped with tubes and wires like some avant-garde lamp. The doctor checks your vital signs, double-checks the equipment, and politely pretends this is all very normal. You half expect someone to wheel in a tray of surgical instruments, or at least offer you a sticker for being so brave. There are no lullabies, no bedtime stories, just the gentle click of syringes and the soft shuffle of hospital slippers on designer carpet. The lighting is dim, but not too dim. After all, proper anesthesia requires proper visibility. You stare at the ceiling, counting not stars, but the holes in the acoustic tiles, the reflection of the monitor lights, the pale glow of the oxygen tank in the corner. Your house smells faintly of disinfectant and ambition. It's the kind of bedtime setup that would make most people bolt for the door. But you, the king of pop, have become strangely accustomed to it. What once felt like an intrusion now feels almost comforting, a nightly ritual where everyone knows their part. The doctor takes your pulse. The nurse checks the drip. Your bodyguard stands just outside the door, trying not to look worried. If sleep won't come to you, you'll just bring the hospital to bed. The weirdest part is how mundane it starts to feel. The medical equipment blends in with the rest of your life. The gold records, the crystal figurines, the custom artwork. A heart monitor beeping gently in the night is just another background sound. No stranger than the distant hum of fans outside your gate, or the soft hoot of an owl in the garden. The line between luxury and lunacy gets thinner by the night. You have to admit there's a certain efficiency to it all. No more tossing and turning, no more herbal teas or lavender-scented pillows. Just a simple request. I'd like to sleep now, and the team springs into action. The anesthesiologist draws up the milk, the nurse calibrates the monitors, and you drift off, not so much falling asleep as temporarily exiting the mortal realm. If there were frequent flyer miles for anesthesia, you'd be on your way to a free trip to Fiji by now. But nothing comes without a price. The routine is precise, almost military. Vital signs, dosage, position, all recorded in neat handwriting that will later become Exhibit A. The air is heavy with unspoken questions. What if something goes wrong? What if you stop breathing? What if tonight is the night the king doesn't wake up? Everyone in the room thinks it, but no one says a word. After all, you're the boss, and the boss wants to sleep. And yet, beneath the layers of protocol and professionalism, there's an undercurrent of absurdity. You're the only billionaire who needs a medical team just to get 8 hours. Somewhere in the world, there's a tired parent trying to get their toddler to bed, reading Goodnight Moon for the 100th time. Here, you have a specialist monitoring your oxygen saturation as you drift off, half conscious and utterly exhausted. It's bedtime for people who've outgrown bedtime, and bedtime for people who can buy and sell bedtime. Sometimes you wonder what it's like to just sleep, to close your eyes and let your brain do its work, uninterrupted and unsupervised. But those days are long gone. Here, in your own private hospital suite, sleep is a production, cast, crew, and leading man included. You're both patient and performance, a legend wrapped in wires, hoping tonight's show ends with a gentle curtain call instead of an alarm. You close your eyes, the monitors beep, the medicine flows, and as the world slips away, you wonder if anyone else has ever had to hire an entire medical department just to say goodnight. You start noticing strange side effects, memory gaps, jittery mornings, and a general feeling that you're living in a David Lynch movie. But hey, at least you're not awake to experience most of it. You wake up and the world feels subtly off, like someone swapped out all the furniture in your house for nearly identical replicas, but forgot to plug in the clocks. Sometimes you're up before dawn with your heart racing like you drank an espresso IV. Other mornings, you're groggy until lunch, wandering Neverland's hallways in pyjamas, quietly wondering whether you already had breakfast or if you just dreamed about it in high def. The calendar on your phone is full of appointments you don't remember making. You start asking your assistant questions just to make sure you're not inventing new business meetings in your sleep. Did I schedule lunch with Spielberg, or was that another hallucination? The line between dream and reality blurs. At this point, you wouldn't be surprised if your chimpanzee started giving legal advice or your pet llama delivered the mail. But the side effects don't stop at mild confusion. Your hands shake when you pick up a pen, so you start signing autographs in block letters. Rehearsals become an adventure in muscle memory. Some nights, your moonwalk glides. Other nights, your feet decide to take a detour and land you in the arms of a backup dancer. Everyone is too polite to mention it, but the band quietly adjusts the tempo to match your newfound unpredictability. Physically, things get weirder. You notice small bruises and can't remember where they came from. Your appetite vanishes one week and returns with a vengeance the next. Some days your energy is bottomless, wired, restless, ready to launch a world tour from your kitchen. Other days you feel like a deflated parade balloon, barely able to muster the enthusiasm to change out of your stage clothes. There's a parade of medical specialists to explain it all. Some say it's the natural cost of stardom. Sleep debt is common among creative geniuses. Others suggest it's the chemical cocktail you swallow every night. These medications may cause drowsiness, dizziness, disorientation, existential dread, or a sudden urge to compose orchestral music at 3 a.m. You nod, jot down some notes, and hope that you'll remember which side effect goes with which pill. The worst part is how quickly it all becomes routine. At first, you panic when you realize you've misplaced a whole afternoon. By the third time, it's just another Tuesday. You keep a notepad handy for stray thoughts and reminders, only to discover you've written, "Buy more clouds" or "Call Diana Ross or unicorns." Whether you ever follow up on these tasks is a mystery, even to you. And then there are the dreams, or more accurately, the fever dream nightmares that slip between doses of Propofol and reality. You dream about empty arenas, endless applause, and faceless doctors in surgical masks, muttering lines from your own songs in Latin. You wake up with a start, unsure if you're late for rehearsal or if you just need to reset your circadian rhythm again. The people around you try to adapt. Staff members label your water bottles by the hour so you don't double dose. Family calls are scheduled for late mornings when you're least likely to mistake them for an intervention. The chef experiments with comfort food, hoping mashed potatoes can soak up residual benzodiazepines. But the most insidious side effect is doubt. You begin to wonder if anyone else notices the changes, or if they're just too dazzled to say so. Is this the price of rest, or the cost of never finding it? You try to laugh it off, after all. At least you're not awake for most of the weirdness. Still, as night falls and the routine begins again, you can't help but wonder what it would be like to simply sleep, unassisted, undisturbed, and unburdened by the fine print. Until then, you drift through your days with a gentle shrug, reminding yourself, side effects may include everything. Your staff walks on eggshells. When the boss wants to sleep, the boss gets what he wants. Whether it's Propofol or fairy dust, everyone's job is to nod and refill the syringes. Being the king has perks, but honest feedback isn't one of them. There's a rhythm to the mansion's evenings, an unspoken choreography practiced by the night shift. You give the signal, maybe a yawn, maybe a whispered request for the milk, and the gears of luxury grind into motion. Assistants retreat to shadowy corners, glancing at one another to see who'll draw the short straw and fetch the doctor. Someone checks the supply closet, which now stocks IV bags next to spare rhinestones. The housekeeper straightens the bedsheets with the precision of a casino croupier. All of them hope to finish the night with their jobs, and their consciences intact. No one wants to be the one who says no. Saying no in your world is a career-limiting move. the sort of thing that gets you reassigned to washing pet chimpanzee laundry, or, worse, dealing with the tabloid press. When you make a request, there's a committee-level hush. Heads nod, eyes avoid contact, and everyone springs into action, determined to deliver whatever you need, no matter how peculiar the need might seem in daylight. Your personal chef tries not to look surprised as a tray of crackers and electrolytes is prepared just in case. The bodyguard posts up in the hallway looking stoic, but keeping one ear open for any alarming thuds. Someone fetches your favourite blanket, a cashmere throw that's softer than a diplomatic answer. And then the doctor arrives. He's as much a fixture now as the golden doorknobs and the garden peacocks, only slightly less decorative. Enabling is a group project. There's a silent understanding. You don't question the routine, you don't question the king, and you definitely don't question the man holding the sedative. Everyone in the room knows that something isn't quite right, but no one is brave or reckless enough to speak up. After all, it's not like there's a how-to manual for dealing with a superstar's midnight medical demands. Even the house manual stops at turn off the lights and secure the gates. Occasionally, someone gets bold. A new assistant, fresh from the agency and still clinging to the wild idea that boundaries exist, might clear their throat. Should we really? The question dies in the air, flattened by a look from a more seasoned staffer. Around here, curiosity doesn't just kill the cat, it also gets the cat a one-way ticket back to temp work. The pressure isn't always overt. It's in the gentle reminders to focus on your duties. It's in the thank yous delivered a little too quickly, the nervous laughter when someone forgets the order of your bedtime steps. Sometimes, it's just in the knowledge that you're not the first boss who's asked for something strange, nor the first staffer who's weighed job security against common sense. Sleep, it turns out, is a team sport for billionaires, and no one wants to be benched. Behind closed doors, the support crew exchanges stories. Did you see what happened last night? Did you hear about the time the IV line got tangled in the curtain? There are whispered hopes that maybe tomorrow you'll just ask for chamomile tea, or a bedtime story, or a little peace and quiet. But they all know the drill. The show goes on, even if the stage is a king-size bed and the audience is just a handful of loyal, exhausted staffers. And so the enabling continues, night after night, everyone doing their part in the strange ballet of wealth, fame, and medical improvisation. No one wants to rock the boat, especially not when the boat comes with a private doctor and the world's most expensive blackout curtains. After all, in Neverland, dreams are bought, but honesty is always out of stock. Reality starts to blur. Days and nights merge into one long, sluggish haze. Conversations feel scripted. Your concerts are a blur, your rehearsals surreal. Time becomes a flat circle, like a spinning record that never quite stops. It's impossible to tell if you're actually awake, or just moving through the echo of a dream you can't shake. Mornings slide into afternoons, afternoons fade into night, and somewhere in the middle, you're still waiting to wake up properly. Coffee has no effect. Sunlight is more of a rumour than an experience, and your internal clock is running on some forgotten Vegas time zone. You start each day asking the same question. What day is it? Not as a joke, but as a sincere cry for help. Conversations float by like lines from a half-remembered play. Your manager recites the day's agenda, but it might as well be in Morse code. You nod along, unsure if you're responding to real people or just figments of your medicated imagination. Your team speaks in gentle, reassuring tones, the kind reserved for people on too much medication and small, nervous dogs. Rehearsals take on a dream logic of their own. You step onto the stage, only to find that your backup dancers have been replaced by shadowy shapes. The music is both too loud and too soft. You move through the choreography, trusting muscle memory to save you, but every pirouette feels like it's happening underwater. Sometimes the applause comes in slow motion, like someone pressed the snooze button on reality. You catch glimpses of yourself in the dressing room mirror, the world's most famous insomniac propped up by caffeine, adrenaline, and a stubborn refusal to disappoint. Even your reflection looks tired. There's a fuzziness to the edges, a sense that the person in the mirror is just as confused about what's happening as you are. You're living inside a pop video with the saturation turned down. Your memories slip and slide, turning recent days into one big, blurry slideshow. Was that interview yesterday or last week? Did you really eat breakfast, or just think about it so hard that it became a false memory? At times, you could swear you've already done today before. Same songs, same faces, same weary laughter. If Deja Vu had a frequent flyer program, you'd be a platinum member. Even your home, Neverland, the palace of endless distractions, becomes a maze of soft edges and lost time. You wander hallways that seem to loop back on themselves. Rooms shift and rearrange. The clocks all read different times, and none of them seem to matter. You open a door, expecting the kitchen, and find yourself in the game room instead. You start to wonder if the house is just as confused as you are. Your phone fills up with texts and voicemails you barely remember sending. Friends worry that you're drifting, that the person they knew is fading into the fog of sedatives and sleepless nights. You want to reassure them, but you can't quite remember how. Sometimes you draft responses in your head, long, honest explanations about dreams and pills and living on the edge of consciousness. But by the time you pick up the phone, the words are gone. You try to anchor yourself with routines, but they slip through your fingers like sand. Meals are eaten standing up, or not at all. Workouts get postponed, then forgotten. Even music, the one thing that always grounded you, feels distant, like a song played through the wall of another hotel room. You're not unhappy, exactly, just unmoored. You float through your own life, half spectator, half performer, always waiting for the moment when reality will snap back into focus. But it never quite does. Instead, you spin in this twilight zone, half asleep, half awake, always searching for the next sliver of clarity that might finally let you rest. You always said you were a child at heart. Turns out, you're also a patient in a perpetual nap-time crisis. Your sleep issues are the stuff of therapist dreams and insurance nightmares. Neverland wasn't just a house, it was a mission statement. A palace built for the boy who didn't want to grow up, stuffed with enough candy, games and animatronic animals to make Willy Wonka jealous and a Disney executive nervous. Here, every window looked out on possibility, every hallway echoed with the sound of forced fun, and every room was decorated with the feverish optimism of someone who believed in endless playtime. You clung to childhood like it was a security blanket, even as real blankets and pillow forts did absolutely nothing for your insomnia. In most lives, childhood means story time, snacks, and an occasional nap in the middle of the afternoon. But in your case, nap time has gone off the rails. Your body, baffled by a schedule that never stabilised, treats sleep as an enemy. Bedtime stories are replaced by real-life bedtime dramas, insurance forms, medical charts, and an ever-rotating parade of night nurses and doctors, each more bewildered by your bedtime routine than the last. The therapists, when they're allowed through the gates, see you as a case study in contradictions, a man who redefined music but can't master the basics of REM cycles. They scribble furiously on notepads. Peter Pan complex, chronic anxiety, probable circadian rhythm disorder, possibly allergic to adulthood. If they could, they'd prescribe you a dose of actual childhood, with 8 hours of sleep and a mother to chase away the nightmares. Instead, you get a prescription for something with 5 syllables and side effects that include temporary amnesia and vivid hallucinations about pirate ships. Every effort to fix things ends up more elaborate and more expensive than the last. You try bubble baths with rubber ducks and strawberry-scented foam. You order pajamas with cartoon characters, custom tailored and delivered in velvet gift boxes. You consider building a literal treehouse in the master suite, but the fire marshal says no, and even your wealth has limits when it comes to code enforcement. The irony, of course, is that real children usually sleep anywhere, curled up in a car seat, sprawled across a pile of stuffed animals draped across the family dog. But you, king of the never sleep, require a team of professionals, industrial blackout curtains, and pharmaceutical-grade bedtime milk just to get through the night. There's no bedtime story in existence strong enough to drown out the anxiety swirling in your adult mind. The mortgage on eternal youth turns out to have a sky-high interest rate. In therapy, you're encouraged to revisit the past. This just leads to more stress. Childhood was never simple for you. Not the kind with cartoons and juice boxes, but the kind with stage lights and business meetings. Your sense of normal was sold at auction when you were 8 years old and never restocked. No wonder your brain doesn't know how to power down. Sometimes you envy the kids who visit Neverland for charity days. They fall asleep in seconds on a couch, their faces sticky with ice cream, completely unaware of the haunted insomnia lurking in the master bedroom. You listen to them snore, half amused and half envious, and wonder what kind of magic it takes to be that free from worry, to surrender so completely to dreams. But even in your endless quest for rest, you keep chasing the comfort of childhood. Maybe tonight, you think, the carousel music will be just soothing enough. Maybe the smell of cotton candy will finally overpower the smell of disinfectant and hospital tape. Maybe, just maybe, you'll close your eyes and drift away, not into a medicated abyss, but into the simple, sweet oblivion you always imagined childhood sleep should be. Until then, the naptime crisis continues, with you as both the restless child and the anxious parent. The moon rises over Neverland, and the king of pop stays wide awake, lost somewhere between boyhood dreams and the very grown-up nightmare of never being able to sleep. Dr. Murray's methods are less best practices and more what could possibly go wrong. Bedside chats become increasingly awkward. Is he a trusted confidant, or just another figure in the procession of people who'd rather be anywhere else? From the start, your relationship with Dr. Conrad Murray feels like an odd game show. The stakes, your sanity and sleep. The prize, possibly a good night's rest, possibly a medical ethics hearing. Dr. Murray arrives every evening with the solemnity of a substitute teacher facing a classroom of gremlins. His tie is always straight, his eyes always a little too wide. You can tell he's rehearsed his professional voice in the car before ringing the doorbell. Instead of the calm assurance you'd expect from a man wielding syringes at bedtime, you get a mixture of nerves and forced cheerfulness. Every question sounds like he's hoping you'll say fine. "How are we feeling tonight, Michael?" he'll ask, clipboard at the ready. You get the sense he'd rather be anywhere else, at a walk-in clinic, a root canal appointment, or even a continuing education seminar about not doing this exact thing. The lines blur between medical care and midnight gossip. Sometimes you confide in him about your day, the insomnia, the stress, the unending circus that is your life. Sometimes he just nods, scribbles, and glances nervously at the clock. You wonder if he has a checklist for appropriate small talk with global icons. There's an odd comfort in the routine. He becomes the one person who doesn't treat you like a legend. He treats you like a science experiment with a platinum record. Murray's approach to medicine is what you might call improvisational. Need a little more sleep? Bump up the dose? Feeling groggy? Maybe switch medications? There's not much in the way of long-term strategy, but plenty of let's see what happens. If medicine had a jazz division, Murray would be the guy on the corner playing an off-key trumpet, hoping no one calls the cops. The rest of your staff tries to keep a polite distance. They exchange glances as Doctor. Murray unpacks his medical bag, laying out IV lines and vials on a nightstand already crowded with trophies and Grammy awards. In another universe, this would be a hilarious setup for a sitcom, The King and His Doctor. But here, it's a nightly ritual, and everyone's in on the joke except the audience. Sometimes Murray attempts the bedside pep talk. "You're in good hands," he'll say, voice wobbling just enough to inspire doubt. You want to believe him, you really do. He talks a good game, at least until you catch him reading the Propofol instructions for the third time, or you realise he's Googling drug interactions on his phone. Once, you spot him eyeing a medical journal article called Sedation for Dummies. You're not reassured. It's hard to say whether he's a confidant or just another cog in the machine of people trying to keep you functioning. Some nights, he seems genuinely invested, asking about your music, your hopes for the tour, the way you feel when you hear fans singing outside your window. Other nights, he's all business, eyes darting, hands moving quickly, and conversations kept mercifully brief. You wonder if he's afraid for your health, or just afraid for his license. Trust in this context becomes a matter of inertia. You keep letting him in, because he's there, and because change is harder than just surrendering to the routine. He's not the first doctor who's tried to fix you, just the first who brought the hospital with him. You cling to the hope that maybe this time the answer really is in the dosage. Still, as the beeping machines lull you toward chemically assisted sleep, you catch Dr. Murray's reflection in the window, half committed, half terrified, and you wonder if either of you really knows what you're doing, or if, in the grand tradition of late-night infomercials, you're both about to learn the hard way that "don't try this at home" really means "don't try this anywhere." For you, sleep isn't just a necessity, it's a forbidden fruit. Each night, you chase the oblivion of Propofol flirting with the edge of medical disaster, convinced that just one more infusion will finally deliver rest. There's a strange romance to it, the siren song of the IV bag hanging by your bedside. You know, in some distant logical part of your mind, that this isn't how bedtime is supposed to work. Most people get a pillow, a warm beverage, maybe a couple of pages of a paperback novel. You get a sterile syringe, a pulse monitor, and the tantalizing promise of perfect, dreamless darkness. The prospect of real sleep, uninterrupted, absolute, becomes an obsession. You start to crave the nothingness, the heavy velvet curtain that drops over your mind and wipes the slate clean. But the more you taste that artificial rest, the more you want. It's the world's most exclusive club, the sleep of the deeply anesthetized. No anxiety, no racing thoughts, no late-night worries about ticket sales, lawsuits, or whether the llamas have eaten the roses again. You fall backward into oblivion and hope it's waiting to catch you. At first, you tell yourself this is temporary, a tool, not a trap. Just until the tour, you say. Just until the stress eases up. The trouble is, stress and tours are as endless as your discography. Soon, you're negotiating with yourself. Maybe the dose should be a little higher tonight. Maybe if you just get a few solid nights in a row, everything will reset and you'll magically become one of those normal people who sleep through storms and wake up refreshed. But it never works that way. One infusion becomes two, becomes a pattern, becomes a need. Every time you close your eyes and feel that cold rush in your veins, you're aware that you're walking a razor's edge. You read about Propofol in the news, how it's meant for surgeons, not insomniacs, how it comes with risks that don't care about your net worth or your fame. But when the craving hits, all those warnings fade to static. Even the doctor's quiet voice, "Michael, this is dangerous," sounds far away, muffled by exhaustion. You nod anyway, because what else is there to do? The staff can't stop you. Even the doctor can't say no, not really. You're the king, and the king's word is law, at least within the gates of Neverland. Besides, the real world is more terrifying than any side effect. The real world means being awake, being vulnerable, facing the endless parade of questions you never wanted to answer. It's easy to lose track of time. Was it yesterday you started this routine? Or last month? Or last year? The calendar is a blur. There are moments, as the medication washes over you, when you wonder if this is how sleep feels for everyone else, this heavy, complete erasure of self. Then the nurse checks your pulse, the doctor adjusts the drip, and you remember, nobody else sleeps like this. At least, not by choice. Sometimes, right before you drift away, you catch a glimpse of the old Michael, the kid who just wanted a good night's sleep before a big show, the one who believed in bedtime stories and warm milk. Now, milk is a code word for oblivion, and bedtime stories have been replaced by cautionary tales in medical journals. Still, you chase that ultimate rest, convinced that tonight will be different, that tonight you'll finally get what you need. There's always one more infusion, one more attempt to trick your body into doing what it's supposed to do on its own. You want sleep so badly, you're willing to risk everything for it, even yourself. And as you surrender to the blissful black, you tell yourself this is victory, not defeat. Because at least for a few hours the world is quiet and the only thing left to chase is a dreamless, impossible peace. The world is waiting. This is it is announced. You're rehearsing daily, the pressure is on, and you're running on less sleep than a new parent. The higher the stakes, the stronger the need for help at bedtime. You picture the perfect comeback, confetti raining down, lights blazing, a stadium full of fans moonwalking in perfect unison. What nobody sees is you, alone in a cavernous rehearsal studio at midnight, feet wrapped in ice packs, eyelids drooping, rehearsing the same 8 bars for the 100th time. You're a pop machine running on nothing but adrenaline, caffeine, and medical wizardry, plus a prayer that no one notices your energy is held together by wishful thinking and pharmaceutical glue. Each morning your calendar taunts you, vocal warm-ups at dawn, choreography with a team of dancers who don't sweat, you suspect they're cyborgs, costume fittings, interviews and meetings about meetings. You nod politely, sign autographs with hands that tremble from exhaustion, and remind yourself that legends don't get tired. They just get more mysterious. Every rehearsal is a battle against your own biology. There's the sharp ache in your legs, the fog behind your eyes, the chorus of voices, trainers, managers, choreographers, all urging you to push through. You give it everything you've got, but by the time you collapse into bed, your mind is buzzing like the world's most glamorous mosquito. The adrenaline won't fade, the music won't stop playing in your head, and the list of things to worry about stretches out to the horizon. Normal sleep hygiene doesn't stand a chance. Herbal teas are a joke. Warm baths are just another opportunity to fall asleep and drown in the tub. Friends and family urge you to rest, but rest is for people with open calendars and no global expectations. You try breathing exercises, you try meditation, you try counting sheep, but in your mind they're all backup dancers, and you start choreographing a routine for them instead. So you lean on the only solution that seems to work, medical sleep. At first it feels like cheating, a backstage pass to dreamland. But the deeper you go, the less restful it feels. Your nights become shorter, stranger, and increasingly dependent on someone else's willingness to prep a syringe. There's no such thing as just a quick nap. Everything is a production, and your sleep schedule is written in pencil, constantly erased and redrawn by the demands of the show. The pressure builds quietly and relentlessly. The headlines speculate about your health, your sanity, your future. Reporters hover outside your gates, hoping for a glimpse of the king in pajamas, proof that you're still human beneath the legend. Fans line the street with homemade signs, some urging you to rest, others just asking for one more song. Everyone wants something from you, an autograph, a selfie, a piece of your myth. You give what you can, but the only thing you truly want is the one thing no one can deliver, a night of real, undisturbed sleep. You start to wonder if you can keep this up. The tour looms larger every day, a tidal wave of expectation that only grows as the first show approaches. You promise yourself that once the first night is over, you'll finally take a break, finally find time to recover. But that first night keeps moving further away, always just out of reach, always one more rehearsal, one more fitting, one more final sound check. Somewhere, in the quiet after another long day, you realise the comeback isn't just about music. It's about proving you're still invincible. And so, you push through, night after night, using whatever help is required, all for a comeback that, for all its promise, will never come to pass. In the end, it's not the audience or the critics that you have to conquer. It's your own restless mind, forever awake, forever dreaming of the one performance you can't master, falling asleep and staying there. Step right up to the weirdest science lesson you never asked for. Tonight, you get to experience the bedtime routine of a patient who is also the world's biggest superstar. Ever wondered what intravenous feels like in silk pajamas? It's not your standard bedtime routine. You don't fluff your pillow or double-check that you set your alarm. Instead, your evening begins with a soft knock on the bedroom door. In comes your personal anesthesiologist, because that's a thing now, carrying a black bag full of supplies that look more at home in a surgical theatre than a celebrity mansion. He's followed by an assistant who moves quietly, lowering the lights and drawing the blackout curtains with the solemn precision of someone preparing for an eclipse. First, there's the checklist. It's less, did you brush your teeth? And more, are the crash cart and oxygen handy? Monitors are rolled out, pulse oximeter, blood pressure cuff, EKG. The faint beeping begins, a lullaby for the medically ambitious. You sit at the edge of your bed, silk pajamas shimmering in the dim light, while the doctor sterilizes the crook of your arm with an alcohol swab. You try to pretend it's normal. Maybe you crack a joke. Maybe you ask about the weather or make small talk about the latest headlines. But everyone in the room knows that what's about to happen is the furthest thing from normal. There are no bedtime stories or mugs of cocoa, just the cold, clinical snap of latex gloves and the faint scent of antiseptic. Next comes the IV, a slender needle, a momentary pinch, and then a soft, almost apologetic tap as the tape secures the line to your arm. You watch the bag of Propofol, the infamous milk, get hung on the IV pole. The fluid is milky white, cartoonishly out of place in a world of clear, colourless medications. The doctor draws up the right dose, eyes narrowing in concentration, double-checking against your latest chart, your weight, your tolerance. The numbers are scribbled in pen on a legal pad that rests on a bedside table, crowded with Grammy Awards and phone chargers. Ready? He asks. You nod, though you're not sure what you're agreeing to anymore. This has become routine, a bedtime performance that's somehow more intimate and more absurd than any encore. The doctor starts the infusion. The cool rush travels up your arm, an icy river winding its way through tired veins. You feel yourself relax, even as a tiny logical voice inside you wonders if you'll remember any of this tomorrow. The monitors beep softly, recording the evidence that you are, at least for now, still very much alive. Your breathing slows, your eyelids grow heavy. The world fuzzes at the edges, and you surrender to the odd comfort of a controlled descent into nothingness. For the team, it's all business. They keep an eye on the monitors, the rate of the drip, the colour of your skin. There are safety protocols, pages of them, though you suspect half of those only exist because you're you. Everyone is hoping for an uneventful night, the medical equivalent of a sold-out show where nothing goes wrong and the curtain falls on time. To outsiders, it would seem unthinkable, a superstar putting himself under, night after night, in search of the most basic human luxury. But to you, this has become sleep, a nightly science experiment, a dance with chemistry that's just a little too close to the edge. You wonder if, in a different life, you'd simply roll over and drift away. Here, the only thing that drifts is the Propofol, and the promise of oblivion it delivers. You close your eyes, feeling the world fade, trusting that the monitors will keep the beat while you take your nightly bow. Sweet dreams, superstar. This is the anatomy of your bedtime. Equal parts medicine, routine, and the high-wire act of sleeping in silk pajamas, one infusion at a time. Your siblings and parents voice concern again. But fame has an odd way of drowning out family. Besides, you're convinced you know your body better than anyone, even apparently than your own body. They gather in the living room, Jermaine, Janet, Latoya, and the others, each with their own approach. Some are gentle, voices soft, hoping to coax you into reason with love and nostalgia. Others go for the direct approach. You need to stop this, Michael, they say, hands folded, worry etched across their faces like the liner notes of a heartbreak album. Someone, probably Tito, tries humour, hoping a laugh will ease the tension. But the air is heavy, thick with the kind of concern only family can muster. Desperate, stubborn, and impossible to ignore. You listen, you nod, but your mind is already miles away, half on your next rehearsal, half on the growing fog that insomnia leaves behind. It's hard to convince people you're fine when you're operating on 3 hours of sleep and caffeine that taste like regret. Their voices grow louder, but all you can hear is the relentless thump of expectation, echoing in your ears louder than any stadium crowd. They try to stage interventions, big and small. There's a full family sit-down, where everyone takes turns saying why they're worried and how much they miss the old Michael. You appreciate the effort, but it's like watching reruns of a show you never liked the first time. "We're just trying to help," your mother pleads, her voice soft as cotton. But help to you sounds like interference. You insist, again, that you have everything under control. You rattle off medical terms, quote your latest lab results, and assure them that Dr. Murray is on top of things. The more you explain, the less convinced anyone seems to be, including yourself. There are late-night phone calls, pleading texts, and surprise drop-ins at the mansion. Sometimes, one of your siblings will sit with you in silence, hoping you'll open up. Sometimes, you both just sit and watch cartoons, because that's what you used to do when the world felt too big. But even shared nostalgia isn't enough to drown out the sense that you're drifting further from the people who know you best. Your family wants the old rhythms back. Sunday dinners, laughter around the kitchen table, music that isn't dissected by critics and lawyers. You want that too. But the machinery of fame is a jealous companion. There's always a new rehearsal, a new business meeting, another magazine calling for a quote. The phone rings, and you're pulled away again. Even your apologies sound like song lyrics, well-intentioned but practiced. In their frustration, your family cycles through solutions. Janet offers to stay for a few days, hoping her presence will help you rest. Jermaine proposes a vacation, just the siblings, away from doctors and deadlines. Someone else suggests holistic healing, a retreat in the mountains, meditation by the ocean. You smile and promise you'll think about it, but the only thing you really think about is the Propofol waiting for you at bedtime. Fame has given you many things, adoration, wealth, opportunity, but it's also built walls thicker than any castle. Your family tries to climb over, dig under, knock down those walls, but they're no match for the army of assistants, security guards, and routines you've built around yourself. You know they mean well. You know they love you. But love feels complicated now, a mixture of longing and obligation, comfort and guilt. And so, the interventions come and go. The Jacksons fly in, fly out, voices hoarse from trying to reach you across the great divide of celebrity. You wave from the other side, promising to try, promising to sleep, promising everything will be okay. But as the house quiets and your family heads home, you're left alone with your doubts and a bedtime routine that no amount of family drama can fix. You tell yourself they'll understand, that you're doing what you need to survive. Maybe tomorrow you'll call, Maybe next week you'll rest. But tonight, it's you and your choices, together in the echoing silence of Neverland. Good sleep hygiene for most people means no caffeine after 2 p.m. For you, it means the absence of paparazzi in the bedroom and trying not to knock over the IV pole during a midnight snack. Good sleep hygiene for most people means no caffeine after 2 p.m. For you, it means the absence of paparazzi in the bedroom and trying not to knock over the IV pole during a midnight snack. Somewhere, a well-meaning sleep expert is writing a checklist. Dim the lights, keep the bedroom cool, avoid screens, maintain a consistent bedtime. You would love to try this, truly. But it's hard to maintain a consistent bedtime when your evenings involve rehearsals, phone calls with lawyers in 3 time zones, and a small crowd of adults whispering urgently about syringes. Your bedroom doesn't signal rest, it signals activity. Wires snake across the floor, machines hum quietly, blinking like bored robots. The air smells faintly of antiseptic and expensive candles trying and failing to cover it up. Blackout curtains block the moon, but not the anxiety. Somewhere outside, a security guard coughs. Somewhere closer, a monitor beeps, reminding you that even your sleep is being observed. Normal people wind down with a book. You wind down with negotiations. Just a little less tonight, someone suggests. Just enough to take the edge off. There's a discussion about dosage that sounds suspiciously like a wine tasting. Notes are taken, decisions are made. The concept of bedtime becomes a logistical exercise. And let's talk about food. Sleep experts recommend a light snack, maybe a banana or some yogurt. You, meanwhile, are rummaging through the kitchen at midnight in silk pyjamas, trying to avoid tangling your IV line on a bar stool. The chef has prepared something gentle, broth, crackers, fruit, cut into polite little squares. You eat standing up, chewing carefully, wondering if crumbs count as a medical hazard. Caffeine rules don't apply anymore. Your schedule laughs at them. Some days you need coffee just to remember your own name. Other days you avoid it entirely, afraid your heart might try to escape your chest. Energy drinks are banned, but espresso sneaks in disguised as just one sip. Sleep hygiene experts would faint if they saw your routine. Luckily, they're not on the guest list. Your phone is supposed to stay out the bedroom. Instead, it's glued to your hand. Texts come in late. Calls come in later. Someone always needs reassurance. Someone always needs a decision. You scroll through headlines about yourself promising you'll stop after one more. You never do. The blue light burns into your eyes, but at least it's familiar. At least it's not silence. Noise is another problem. White noise machines are recommended, but yours are drowned out by helicopters, distant traffic, and the occasional shout from a fan who has somehow learned your schedule better than you have. You try earplugs once. They fall out. You try calming music. It turns into a rehearsal in your head. You try silence. That's worse. Consistency is the holy grail of sleep hygiene. Go to bed at the same time every night. Wake up at the same time every morning. Your body has no idea what time it is. Jet lag without the jet. You fall asleep at dawn and wake at noon, or you sleep at midnight and wake at 2, or you don't sleep at all. Your circadian rhythm is less a rhythm and more a freestyle jazz solo. People tell you to listen to your body. You try. Your body sends mixed signals. Exhausted but wired. Heavy but restless. Hungry but nauseous. Calm for 5 minutes. Panicked for 10. You lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering when something so basic became so complicated. Eventually, the idea of normal sleep hygiene becomes a joke you tell yourself to feel better. Normal left the building years ago. This is your version now. A bedroom that looks like a clinic. A bedtime that requires coordination. A sleep routine that would make a monk weep. You close your eyes, carefully adjusting your position so nothing pulls, nothing beeps louder than it should. You promise yourself that tomorrow you'll try something simpler. Tomorrow You'll do it the normal way. But tomorrow is always busy, and bedtime always arrives with the same quiet chaos. For now, you settle for what you can get. In your world, good sleep hygiene doesn't mean rest. It means survival. If the Hippocratic Oath says, "First, do no harm," nobody bothered updating the Hollywood edition. You get a front row seat to the ethical ambiguity of concierge medicine, where the rules are more like suggestions. In theory, medicine is clean, orderly, and governed by thick textbooks full of firm answers. In practice, especially your practice, it's more like a group chat where everyone is afraid to be the first person to say, "Hey, this feels wrong." Doctors are supposed to set boundaries. But boundaries get fuzzy when the patient lives in a gated compound, pays on time, and just happens to be one of the most famous humans alive. Concierge medicine is marketed as personalized care. In reality, it often means convenience with a stethoscope. Appointments happen whenever you want. Prescriptions appear faster than takeout. Second opinions are optional, especially when the first opinion keeps agreeing with you. The system isn't built to say no, it's built to keep clients happy. And you, exhausted and desperate for sleep, are a very important client. You notice how quickly the language changes. Off-label becomes innovative. Risky becomes manageable. Not recommended becomes well. In rare cases, every concern has a workaround, every guideline a loophole. Someone always mentions that you're monitored, that you're supervised, that everything is technically under control. The phrase "technically under control" starts doing a lot of heavy lifting. There's also the quiet diffusion of responsibility. One doctor prescribes this, another signs off on that. A third reassures everyone that it's fine in moderation. No one feels fully accountable, because no one is technically in charge. The ethical buck keeps getting passed like a hot potato nobody wants to hold for too long. Meanwhile, you're lying in bed, trusting that someone, somewhere, has thought this all the way through. You try asking questions sometimes. Is this safe? How long can I do this? The answers are soothing but vague. We'll keep an eye on it. Everyone's different. We'll adjust as needed. It's hard to argue when you're this tired. Ethics sound very theoretical at 3 a.m, especially when the alternative is another sleepless night with your thoughts ricocheting around your skull. In a hospital, there would be committees, protocols, charts reviewed by people who don't know your name. In your bedroom, there's just a doctor, a drip, and the unspoken pressure to make it work. You're not a case number. You're a brand. And brands don't like complications, especially the kind that come from saying no to the person writing the checks. What makes it worse is that everyone involved can justify their choices. The doctor tells himself he's helping you function. The staff tells themselves they're protecting you from worse alternatives. You tell yourself this is the only way you can survive the demands placed on you. Each justification fits neatly into place, forming a structure that looks stable until you notice it's built on sand. The ethical grey area stretches further each night. At what point does helping become enabling? At what point does care turn into complicity? These questions float around the room like dust motes, visible only if you catch them in the right light. Most nights nobody does. It's easier to focus on the immediate goal, get you through tonight. Tomorrow's ethics problem can wait until tomorrow, but tomorrow keeps coming and the grey keeps spreading. You're living in a system where money smooths edges and urgency overrides caution. The Hippocratic Oath isn't broken outright, it's just quietly bent, reshaped to fit a lifestyle it was never meant to accommodate. As you drift off again, under supervision that feels reassuring and unsettling in equal measure, you can't help but wonder how far this grey area extends. Because once medicine stops being about health and starts being about convenience, the line between care and harm becomes dangerously easy to miss. And in Hollywood, missing lines is common. It's part of the performance. Little mistakes add up. A miscalculation here, a missed vital sign there. Sleep deprivation snowballs into paranoia and confusion. You're living proof that money can buy almost anything except actual health. At first, it's nothing dramatic. A number written a little too fast, a monitor checked a little too late. Someone assumes someone else already looked. These are the kinds of mistakes that happen when routines become rituals and rituals become automatic. Everyone is tired. Everyone is confident. Everyone is sure tonight will be just like last night, uneventful, quiet, professionally uneventful. But the thing about houses of cards is that they don't collapse all at once. They lean, they wobble. They make you uneasy in ways you can't quite articulate. You notice small things that don't feel right. Your heart races when it shouldn't. Your breathing feels shallow, like you're stuck at the top of a sigh. You wake up with a sense of dread, convinced you forgot something important, though you can't remember what it was. Sleep deprivation does strange things to the mind. It turns shadows into threats and coincidences into patterns. You start replaying conversations in your head, wondering what people really meant. Did that doctor hesitate too long? Did that nurse look worried? Or was that just the lighting? Your thoughts chase each other in circles, never landing anywhere useful. You become hyper-aware of your body, but in the least helpful way. Every ache feels significant. Every flutter feels ominous. At the same time, you're oddly detached, as if you're watching yourself from a few feet away. You're both the patient and the observer, trying to diagnose a system that no longer responds to logic. The routine, once comforting, now feels fragile. The IV stand squeaks when it rolls. The monitor beeps a little faster than usual. Someone fumbles with the tape. No one panics, but no one relaxes either. You sense the tension, even if no one names it. It hangs in the room like static, making the air feel heavier. Paranoia slips in quietly. You wonder who's really in charge. You wonder if anyone would stop this if it went too far. You wonder if you would stop it yourself. Money insulates you from consequences, but it also isolates you from honesty. Everyone around you is invested in keeping things smooth, uninterrupted, profitable. Health is abstract. Continuity is concrete. You try to compensate. You ask more questions. You request extra checks. You adjust your position, your schedule, your expectations. But exhaustion erases whatever progress you make. You forget what you asked. You forget what you were told. The feedback loop breaks. Information comes in and leaks right back out. During the day, the fog thickens. You struggle to focus during rehearsals. Directions blur together. You repeat yourself without realizing it. Someone gently corrects you, and you bristle, unsure why it feels like an accusation. Your confidence wavers, then overcorrects. You insist you're fine. You insist everything is under control. You insist because insisting feels safer than admitting you're scared. At night, the cards stack higher. More medication to counter the stress. More monitoring to counter the medication. More reassurance to counter the monitoring. Each layer adds weight. Each solution introduces a new variable. The system becomes so complex that no one fully understands it anymore, not even the people running it. You're aware on some level that this can't last. You've built an intricate machine to solve a simple problem, and the machine requires constant attention just to keep standing. One overlooked detail could bring it all down. One tired decision, one assumption too many. And still, you keep going. Because stopping would mean facing the chaos without the scaffolding. It would mean lying awake with nothing but your thoughts. It would mean admitting that the thing meant to help you sleep is now the thing keeping you trapped. The house of cards sways just slightly. Not enough to fall, not yet. But enough that you feel it, even as you close your eyes and hope, quietly, desperately, that tonight will hold. Rehearsal ends late. You're exhausted, wired, and desperately in need of oblivion. One last request for milk. One last dose. The room is quiet, save for the humming of machines and the weight of 1,000,000 silent expectations. You're back at the mansion, muscles sore, heart racing from hours of dancing, still hitting the moves, still trying to prove you've got it, even after all these years. The crew cheered you at the end of rehearsal. Someone called it magic. Someone else said, "He's back." But back doesn't feel like the right word. You feel more like a shadow chasing itself, trying to keep up with a version of you that no longer sleeps, eats, or rests properly. It's after midnight now. The mansion is dim, echoing with the stillness of a space that was never meant to feel this heavy. The staff has learned to speak in whispers. No doors slam. No one rushes. Everything slows, softens, becomes reverent. You climb into bed not because you're relaxed, but because your legs might not carry you any further. The usual routine unfolds with clinical precision. Dr. Murray enters quietly, carrying his black medical bag like a magician, about to perform a very specific, very illegal trick. The IV setup is familiar now. You don't flinch. You don't ask questions. He doesn't offer answers. The ritual is almost sacred in its repetition. Swab, insert, tape, connect, drip. He checks your vitals, but something's different. Maybe it's the delay. Maybe it's the hesitation in his voice when he says, "Just relax." Maybe it's the silence that stretches between words, like both of you know this isn't sustainable, but neither is ready to stop. You talk about the show. This is it, the comeback, 44 sold-out dates, the set list you memorized, the fans who believe in you, even now, even through the tabloids and trials and years of retreat. They're going to love it, you whisper. You sound like someone trying to convince himself. You lie back. The pulse oximeter clicks onto your finger, a cold tingle in your vein. The Propofol begins to drip. It's the same sensation it's always been. Cool, smooth, like falling into a pool of clouds. But tonight, there's a weight to it. Like your body knows something your mind refuses to acknowledge. Outside, the night deepens. Inside, the machines do their jobs. Beep, beep, beep. Steady, controlled. But you've been edging closer to the red line for weeks. One skipped meal, one skipped check, one too many nights where the math of medicine didn't quite add up. Your breathing slows, your eyes flutter. Dr. Murray glances at his watch, records something on a clipboard, and leaves the room for just a moment. One moment. The silence thickens. There's no grand finale, no dramatic gesture, no whispered goodbye, just stillness, just quiet. In the morning, Los Angeles will erupt, phones will ring, sirens will scream, news anchors will clear their throats and deliver breaking news with trembling voices, crowds will gather, flowers will pile at the gates, the world will stop, replay, rewind, ask how, ask why. But in this moment, this final, unknowable moment, you are finally still, not rehearsing, not negotiating, not escaping, just still. No paparazzi, no stage lights, no entourage, no needle, no noise, just rest. The rest you chased. The rest that always felt one dose away. The rest no one could ever quite give you. For the first time in decades, sleep finds you before the world does. And this time, you don't wake up. You're unresponsive. The panic is immediate, the consequence is permanent. Calls are made. People shout your name. The king of pop, who could electrify an arena with a whisper, doesn't answer. Morning arrives quietly, like it always does, sneaking past the gates without a press pass. The house wakes before you do, soft footsteps, the clink of a mug, a curtain drawn just enough to check the light. Someone knocks, then knocks again. It's the kind of knock that expects an answer. It doesn't get one. At first, it's denial. You're a heavy sleeper, everyone knows that. You've earned it. Someone jokes, nervous, brittle, that you probably just need 5 more minutes. Another voice says your name a little louder, testing the air, still nothing. The room feels wrong, like a stage set without the lead. Then the routine breaks. The door opens. The machines are there, quiet now, like props that forgot their cues. You're still, more still than usual. Your chest doesn't rise the way it should. Someone reaches for your shoulder, gently at first, then with urgency. Michael. Louder. Michael. The name echoes off the walls and goes nowhere. Panic moves fast when it finally arrives. It has a sound, shoes skidding on marble, breath caught in throats, voices overlapping. Someone checks your pulse. Someone else fumbles for a phone. Instructions are shouted, repeated, contradicted. The room fills with people who know exactly what to do, and people who have no idea but do it anyway. Time stretches and snaps, elastic and unforgiving. Emergency services are called. The words feel unreal in your mouth. You've said them before about other people, other days, not today. Not you. The house that once hosted fireworks and laughter now hums with sirens and radios. Strangers rush in carrying equipment, asking questions that don't have good answers. How long has he been like this? When was he last seen awake? What medications did he take? Someone tries CPR. Someone else counts. The rhythm is wrong for this room. Too mechanical, too loud. The monitors that once promised safety now feel like witnesses. There's a moment. There always is, when everyone hopes for a gasp, a cough, a miracle small enough to fit between beats. It doesn't come. Outside, the sun keeps doing what it does. Birds don't check headlines. The world doesn't pause. Inside, the realization settles, heavy and slow. This is not a rehearsal. There's no reset button, no encore. Your children are mentioned in hushed tones. Your family is called. The words are chosen carefully because there is no careful way to say this. Someone sits down on the edge of a chair and stares at the floor, trying to remember how to breathe. Another person stands very still, as if movement might change the outcome. In a house built to keep the world out, the world rushes in anyway. News travels faster than sense. Phones light up. Messages stack. The outside noise grows. Sirens, helicopters, the distant swell of something big beginning to break. The king of pop is not waking up, and the planet feels it in its bones. There's a strange quiet after the storm of effort, a lull where everyone understands, even if they don't want to. You are pronounced. The words land like a period at the end of a sentence no one wanted finished. The room exhales all at once, and in that quiet something simple and terrible becomes clear. For years you chased sleep like a promise. You built systems and rituals and safeguards to find it. You surrounded yourself with help. You tried everything. And now, in the morning light, the rest you wanted has arrived, but not the way anyone meant. The house stands still. The machines are silent. The music is gone. The world will argue later about blame, about choices, about what should have happened. But right now, there's only this moment, heavy and unrepeatable. The morning no one wakes up, and the silence answers everything. Cue the sirens, the legal circus, the headlines. Your doctor is suddenly less family and more defendant. The world is shocked, outraged, and, if we're being honest, morbidly fascinated. The moment the news breaks, the story explodes like a glitter bomb in a courthouse. Flashbulbs ignite. Journalists practically sprout wings. Microphones appear as if summoned by a spell. Conrad Murray, once the quiet figure at the foot of your bed with a stethoscope and a hopeful shrug, is now centre stage in a trial no one can stop watching. Welcome to the courtroom version of TMZ. The prosecution wears somber suits. The defence tries not to sweat. And the public, millions of them, refresh their browsers to see who's crying, who's lying, and who forgot to unmute their mic during live coverage. The charges are serious. Involuntary manslaughter. A medical licence used like a backstage pass. The prosecution paints Murray as reckless, negligent, a man who played anesthesiologist like a kid playing Operation, except with real consequences. They hold up diagrams, photos, timelines. The words standard of care get thrown around like party confetti, except no one's celebrating. The defense leans into the tragic pressure of your life. They say you begged him for sleep, that you made it impossible to say no, that he was in over his head, a cardiologist turned full-time Sandman, pulled into something too big, too strange, too unique for textbooks to handle. They call it compassion. The prosecution calls it criminal. The witnesses arrive like supporting characters in a biopic. Former staff members, nurses, security guards, former friends. Each one gives their version of the story, each one painting a different Michael. Genius, insomniac, perfectionist, victim. Sometimes they contradict each other. Sometimes they contradict themselves. But always, you're the quiet centre of the storm, spoken of in the past tense, never there to explain yourself. Court transcripts read like a tragic screenplay. There's medical jargon, yes, but also surreal dialogue. When did you notice the patient wasn't breathing? How much Propofol was in the house? Did you ever consider calling 911 sooner? The jury listens, the audience gasps, and legal analysts on every network tap their pens and say things like precedent and gross negligence and unprecedented access to power. Somewhere along the way, the public picks sides. Talk shows debate it. Internet forums theorize. People argue in grocery store lines. Was Murray a scapegoat, a fall guy, or a man who made the worst mistake imaginable? The court tries to answer that question with measured logic. But outside the courtroom, it's a morality play. A Greek tragedy rewritten for 24-hour cable news. And then finally the verdict. Guilty. The sentence is light, considering the outcome. 4 years, with time served. Murray loses his license, loses his reputation, gains a Wikipedia page longer than his medical resume. Some call it justice, others call it theatre, but either way, it's over. The curtain falls. Except it's not really over. Because the trial wasn't just about medicine. It was about the weight of fame, the failure of systems, and the price of treating a human life like a production schedule. Murray didn't act alone. He just happened to be the last domino in a row nobody wanted to admit was tilting. And you became a cautionary tale for the modern age. Not just a legend, not just a loss, but a symbol of how sleep, when pursued with desperation and denial, can unravel even the most carefully constructed myths. The courtroom empties. The cameras pack up. The public moves on, slowly, reluctantly, the way people do when a show gets cancelled mid-season. But the questions linger, unanswered and uncomfortable, because while the trial ended with a verdict, the story ends with silence. And in that silence, the world is left to wonder, how did it ever get this far? Fans gather, candles are lit, the internet collectively loses its mind. Even in death, you're an international event. People wear a single glove in your honour, forgetting you really just wanted a decent nap. The news spreads like lightning across every screen. Phones buzz, TVS flicker. Radios interrupt songs with the announcement that feels like a punch to the gut. Michael Jackson, dead at 50. It doesn't compute. People refresh pages compulsively, waiting for someone to say, just kidding, he's fine, he's on tour in the astral plane now. But the confirmation comes again, and again, and again. And just like that, the world goes into mourning, messy, public, neon-lit mourning. Fans collapse on sidewalks. Broadcasters choke up on live television. Instagram hadn't even added filters yet, and still it's flooded with tributes. Hashtag IIPMJ trends in places that didn't even have working electricity a week earlier. The earth itself seems to pause, slightly confused about what to do now that the man who redefined music videos has exited stage left. Outside the hospital, the crowds begin to gather. Some people cry, some sing, some just stand there, unsure what to do with the grief that arrived like an unexpected guest and immediately ate all the snacks. One woman wears a Thriller jacket despite it being 87 degrees. Another brings a boombox blasting Billie Jean. Across the street, a guy who once claimed you were his cousin now claims you're haunting his toaster. Public grief is weird like that. Back at Neverland, candles begin to line the gate. Stuffed animals, balloons, notes written on lined paper and tucked between the iron bars like modern-day prayers. Someone leaves a half-eaten moon pie. It's unclear if it's symbolic or just poor planning. Either way, the gates become a shrine, a place where thousands come to whisper thank you, or why, or just, I miss you. People mourn in waves. First comes disbelief, then sadness, then the documentaries, dozens of them, hastily edited, full of grainy clips and slow piano versions of your biggest hits. Next come the tribute concerts, the award shows with awkward holograms, the off-brand impersonators who suddenly have bookings through 2027. Some of it's moving, some of it's cringe. All of it is somehow too much and not enough. Across living rooms, people play Man in the Mirror on repeat while quietly cancelling plans to cry in private. They watch your performances late into the night, Budapest, Bucharest, Wembley, marvelling at how someone who moved like a demigod could have felt so fragile off stage. It doesn't make sense. It never will. Even world leaders weigh in. Presidents, prime ministers, royalty, Oprah. They all say something about your impact, your genius, your legacy. They say it with the practiced cadence of people trying to be respectful and profound, but occasionally slipping into trying too hard. Still, the intention is real. They know they've lost a cultural landmark, the Eiffel Tower of pop music, and somewhere, in the middle of all this, there's the quiet truth. All you ever wanted was peace, not fame, not a headline, not a global flood of hashtags, just a moment to rest, a full night's sleep, a dream that wasn't haunted by tour dates, tabloid lies, or flashing lights through your bedroom window. Instead, your rest becomes a global event. Millions grieving a man they never met, yet somehow felt they knew. They wear pajamas to candlelight vigils. They whisper, I love you to TV screens. They hold hands with strangers outside the Apollo Theatre. It's tender. It's theatrical. It's exactly what you would have expected from a world you dazzled for 4 decades. And maybe, just maybe, somewhere in the quiet beyond it all, you finally get the rest you deserved. Even if the rest of us are still wide awake, mourning in moonwalk socks. Your story becomes a cautionary tale. Experts debate, celebrities panic, and everyone wonders, how close are we to needing a prescription for our insomnia? Is modern life really this exhausting? Or are we all just one bad night away from a meltdown? Suddenly, sleep, or the lack of it, is breaking news. Your tragic end has sparked something raw, something uncomfortably familiar in people's minds. They're not just mourning you, they're seeing themselves, bleary-eyed commuters scrolling through tributes on 4 hours of rest, parents watching documentaries at 3 a.m. while their newborns scream into the void, executives nodding along to sound bites about exhaustion while sipping their 4th iced coffee. Doctors appear on morning shows, their voices calm but urgent. Sleep is not optional. Podcasts promise 10 hacks for deep rest. Influencers pivot into sleep content, filming themselves falling asleep to binaural beats while selling discount memory foam pillows. Entire industries rush to capitalize on the realization that, yes, society is quietly running on fumes and quietly panicking about it. It's not just celebrities anymore. Regular people start asking, how many apps do I need to download before I can get 8 uninterrupted hours? Why do I still feel tired after a weekend of rest? Why does lying down feel like scheduling a meeting with my own anxiety? Modern life, as it turns out, is a full contact sport. You're always plugged in, always reachable, always just one notification away from stress. Your bed becomes a battleground, your brain a spreadsheet that won't close. Sleep becomes less of a biological necessity and more of a competitive sport. People compare REM cycles like stock portfolios. Someone in your office has a sleep ring. Someone else swears by grounding mats. You, meanwhile, haven't had a dream since 2018. You are just the most famous example of what happens when exhaustion outpaces reason. When the pressure to perform overrides the need to rest. When no one around you says, hey, maybe we stop for a second. But your story resonates because everyone feels a little bit like you now, overstimulated, overtired, and quietly hoping that tonight will finally be the night they sleep like a normal person. Even sleep itself has been rebranded. It's now a wellness goal, a vital sign of productivity. The irony, of course, is that the more obsessed we get with perfecting our sleep, the worse it becomes. You used Propofol. Most of us use doom scrolling, late night snacking, and sheer denial. The truth is, we're all exhausted. Not just physically, but existentially. There's a low-grade tired humming under everything, like background radiation from a life that doesn't pause. And your story shines light on the absurdity of it all, that a man with everything surrounded by experts still couldn't find the one thing we all need the most: rest. So now, your name is whispered in yoga studios. Sleep coaches mention you in their webinars. People lie awake, wondering if they've reached their Michael moment, the tipping point where ignoring sleep stops being noble and starts being dangerous. Maybe your legacy isn't just the moonwalk or thriller or the glittery socks. Maybe it's the question your story forces everyone to ask themselves: am I okay? Not in the Instagram caption way, in the late at night staring at the ceiling quietly terrified way. And maybe that question is the beginning of something useful. A cultural pause, a collective sigh, a reminder that rest isn't weakness and sleep isn't optional, that burnout isn't a badge of honour, it's a red flag dressed in productivity quotes. Because while most of us don't have Neverland ranches or personal anesthesiologists, we do have limits, and when those limits are ignored, we all become a little less human and a little more automated. So tonight, as you settle under the covers, maybe unplug a little earlier, breathe a little slower, and remember, the greatest tribute you can offer to someone who never truly got to rest is finally letting yourself do just that. In the end, you become a legend, equal parts genius, tragedy, and walking sleep study. Your legacy isn't just the moonwalk or thriller, it's a warning about the price of perfection and the bizarre, terrifying quest for rest in a world that never sleeps. You are a phenomenon, and like all phenomena, you stopped being a person at some point and started being a story, a shimmering silhouette, a whispered rumour in rhinestones. People didn't just follow your career, they studied it, like a sacred text. They analysed your glove, your socks, your breath. Your hiccups became headlines, your sleep became a public inquiry. Because it's not just that you died, it's how. The IV pole, the bedroom that wasn't a bedroom, the Propofol bottle that had no business being anywhere near a mattress, the presence of machines where pillows should be, the idea that the king of pop needed an anaesthetic just to get through the night, that haunts people. You stopped being merely Michael Jackson. You became Exhibit A in the Museum of Modern Overstimulation. You weren't just a victim of insomnia, you were its poster child. You were what happens when no one tells you to go to bed, when the world demands more than your body was designed to give. When being human isn't enough, so you hire medicine to make you superhuman, or at least unconscious. And that's the mystery, isn't it? How someone who had everything, fame, power, adoration, couldn't do the one thing every toddler eventually figures out: fall asleep. People spend years dissecting it, Was it trauma? Was it fame? Was it pressure? Was it chemical? Was it spiritual? The answer, of course, is yes. It was all of it. And also something stranger, something lonelier. Because while your heart beat on stages in front of tens of thousands, it slowed alone in the dark, tethered to machines. You could electrify an arena but couldn't soothe your own mind. The same body that floated across stages at impossible angles couldn't find peace beneath silk sheets. You were a contradiction in moonlight, impossibly alive to the world yet slowly unravelling in private. Doctors write about you now. Sleep specialists bring up your case in lectures. There's a whole generation of med students who learned about Propofol by learning about you. You're in textbooks now, alongside diagrams of the human brain, as if your story can be contained in footnotes and caution signs. But the myth was always bigger than the body. People will always remember the sparkly glove, the way you could make an entire stadium hold its breath just by standing still, the way you turned pain into rhythm, chaos into choreography. But the myth doesn't erase the man, and the man in the end was tired, not just physically, but cosmically, the kind of tired that comes from being watched your whole life, from trying to be something for everyone except yourself. The truth is, your legacy is double-edged. You changed the world, and then reminded it, through your absence, that even icons break, that even geniuses falter, that sleep, like life, can't be hacked forever. And maybe that's what people feel when they think about you now. Not just loss, but warning. A gentle whisper in the back of their minds that says, you can't outrun exhaustion forever. You can moonwalk, but you still need to lie down eventually. So you become more than a musician, more than a celebrity. You become a quiet monument to what happens when brilliance burns too hot, too long. A medical mystery wrapped in sequins. A lullaby sung backwards. A dream that couldn't rest. And now, finally, you do. Privacy is a full-time job. Your mansion isn't a home, it's a fortress, surrounded by walls, cameras, and enough security guards to qualify as a minor nation-state. Paranoia becomes normal. Every phone call is suspect. Every shadow in the hallway could be a tabloid reporter with a ladder. It's hard to sleep when the outside world feels like a zombie apocalypse, and you're the last snack left in Hollywood. From the outside, the property looks serene, sculpted hedges, fountains, a driveway that loops like a red carpet with commitment issues. But cross the gates, and it's less fairy tale, more surveillance state. Motion detectors, intercoms, security badges. If you want to fetch a glass of water at midnight, you might trip 5 silent alarms and get gently tackled by a retired Secret Service agent. You once dreamed of peace, of privacy, of space to breathe. So you bought it, acre by acre, brick by brick. And at first, it worked. The fans stayed outside, the press couldn't climb the walls, but over time the thing built to keep everyone out started keeping you in. Walls don't just protect, they isolate. Every window has a curtain, every room has a panic button. You know which security guard is posted where, and who's driving the perimeter cart at what hour. There's a shift rotation chart in your head. You start recognizing the night shift guards by their footsteps. One of them whistles when he's bored. You hate that you know that, and sleep, forget it. The hum of the cameras becomes a lullaby made of static and suspicion. The soft whir of rotating security feeds, the occasional whisper of a walkie-talkie. Your bedroom is quiet but not peaceful. It's like trying to sleep in a very expensive aquarium, except you're the fish and the glass is two-way. You start to suspect everyone of something. Maybe not betrayal, but curiosity. A housekeeper lingers half a second too long. A stylist glances at your nightstand. Your manager calls at strange hours. Is that a business call or a check-in to make sure you haven't done anything headline-worthy? You begin changing your routines just to see who notices, You move rooms, you vary your walking path, you start writing things down, hiding them in books, convinced that digital notes are too risky. At one point, you start communicating with your chef through handwritten notes left under fruit bowls, just to test whether people are reading your texts. Of course, some of this is exhaustion. You haven't slept properly in weeks, or months, or, if we're being honest, maybe years. The line between caution and delusion is thin, and you're towing it in custom slippers. When the world has been watching you since childhood, you stop assuming the eyes ever close. Still, there's comfort in the control. The buzz of the gate opening, the security logs, the knowledge that, in theory, you're safe. You eat breakfast in a dining room the size of a tennis court, alone, surrounded by staff trained to make eye contact only when spoken to. It's peaceful, in the way padded rooms are peaceful. Every once in a while you think about walking out the front gate. Just walking. No disguise. No SUV motorcade. Just fresh air and a sidewalk. But you never do. Because you know what's out there. The flashes, the questions, the headlines, the camera lens that zooms in on your fatigue and sells it as scandal. So you stay in the fortress. Safe. Sealed. Surveilled. And maybe that's the cruel irony. You spent your life becoming the most visible person on Earth only to spend your final years hiding behind blackout curtains and biometric locks. The world wanted a glimpse of the man behind the myth, and the myth responded by building taller walls. Inside, you whisper for sleep. Outside, the world whispers for a photo. Both are left waiting. Sleep is a private struggle, unless you're Michael Jackson. Every yawn, every missed rehearsal, every pharmacy run is front-page news. You can't sneeze without TMZ filing an exclusive. When your search for rest becomes entertainment for millions, even your insomnia needs a publicist. Suddenly, did you sleep well? Is a loaded question with legal implications. It begins subtly. A blurry photo at a pharmacy. A headline asking, "What's wrong with Michael?" As if the answer might be hidden in the font choice. Then come the concerned sources, the insiders, the anonymous people who apparently know everything about your bedtime routine down to the thread count on your sheets. The story writes itself. Pop stars' strange sleep habits. Inside Michael's sleepless nights. Is Jackson's health at risk? And you haven't even left your house. You glance at the news and discover that your REM cycle is now a national mystery, discussed in hushed tones by breakfast hosts between segments on rising avocado prices and dog yoga. Tabloids love insomnia. It's dramatic, it's vague, it's the perfect cocktail of glamour and collapse. It lets them print photos of you looking tired, because of course you look tired, you're not sleeping, and frame it as a crisis. They zoom in on your eyes like they're reading tea leaves. One photo of you blinking mid-step becomes Jackson stumbles into clinic, even if the clinic was a dentist and you were just late for a cleaning. And the speculation? Oh, it's Rich, are you sick? Are you addicted? Are you building a sensory deprivation chamber beneath your mansion? Is it aliens? At some point, someone publishes a timeline of your alleged naps. It includes footage of you closing your eyes in an SUV, which the headline refers to as a worrying moment. You try to control the narrative. A press release goes out. The King of Pop is resting comfortably, but no one believes it. Because resting comfortably doesn't sell magazines. Resting dramatically does. You could release an entire documentary showing yourself peacefully snoozing for 8 hours, and someone would still publish an exposé titled, "Was Michael really asleep?" Experts say no. Meanwhile, paparazzi take to camping near your gate like raccoons near a restaurant dumpster. A security guard reports someone with a long-lens camera hiding in a bush at 3 a.m, trying to capture exclusive footage of fatigue. You begin to wonder if you're being haunted, not by ghosts, but by a 24-hour news cycle wearing a trench coat. Even people who claim to love you start weighing in. Former friends give interviews. He was always tired, they say solemnly, as if that's a revelation and not a basic condition of being alive in 2009. wellness influencers start recommending the Michael Detox, a mysterious combination of celery juice and crystals that supposedly helps you nap like a legend. And through it all, you still can't sleep. Because how do you rest when your exhaustion is public property? When every dark circle under your eye gets dissected like it's a clue in a conspiracy theory? When even your dreams aren't safe from speculation? Your insomnia is no longer a symptom. It's a subplot, a season arc, a ratings boost. So you withdraw further. Fewer appearances, tighter security, fewer interviews, because even your voice sounds too tired to trust. You become the mystery they always wanted you to be, simply because it's the only way to survive the noise. You wonder, late at night, if there's anyone left who sees you as a person, not a headline, not a rumour, not a metaphor for fame gone wrong. Just a man who can't sleep, who's trying, who's tired in a way no camera flash can quite capture. But no one prints that story, because Michael Jackson can't sleep is just too real to sell. And real has never made good tabloid copy. If there's a sleep expert, you've tried them. From Beverly Hills sleep clinics to dubious Beverly Hills energy healers, your search for rest turns into a parade of alternative therapies. Aromatherapy, hypnosis, crystal pyramids, and something called moon reiki all make an appearance. Still awake. Maybe the answer is just around the next chakra alignment. It begins with a consultation. Always a consultation. They arrive in expensive shoes, carrying clipboards and soft-spoken confidence. Some wear lab coats. Others wear tunics. A few come barefoot. They all speak in the same tone. Calm, slow, a little like NPR hosts who've been left on simmer for too long. Their credentials range from Harvard medical degrees to certified energy coach via the Luminous Dolphin Network. All are equally confident that they, unlike everyone before them, can help you sleep. The first wave is clinical. Oxygen studies, REM tracking. They wire you up like a Christmas tree, attach sensors to your scalp and say encouraging things like, "Don't worry, just relax." You lie there, blinking at the ceiling, fully aware of each breath and every twitch your toe dares to make. After 8 hours of surveillance, they tell you what you already know. You're not sleeping. Groundbreaking. Then come the holistic crowd. They sweep into your home with bundles of sage and jars of herbal tinctures named things like Deep Slumber Essence and Dream Whisper. One insists your insomnia is the result of ancient trauma locked in your pancreas. Another recommends drinking butterfly pea flower tea at 11:07 p.m. while facing magnetic north. A third simply hums at you for 45 minutes and sends an invoice for $12,000. You give it all a try, because why not? You sleep on a bed made of Himalayan salt bricks for a week. You wear a biofrequency patch on your forehead that vibrates whenever your cortisol spikes. You get your aura photographed twice. The first one said it was chaotic. The second said it was restless but creative. You wonder if your aura needs a prescription. One healer convinces you to try past life regression therapy. Under light hypnosis, you're told you were once a 17th century monk who never napped. It makes a strange kind of sense. Another therapist leads you through dream visualization, which is ironic because you haven't had a dream since the Bush administration, but you nod politely because you're desperate and also because she's holding a tuning fork next to your head. At one point, you commission a sleep temple to be built inside your mansion. It's dome-shaped, filled with ambient light and white silk curtains. The sound system plays 528 Hz frequencies, which allegedly resonate with the body's natural healing state, or possibly just sound like a mosquito trapped in a crystal bowl. You sleep there once. You don't make it past midnight. Even your pets start getting in on it. Someone suggests animal-assisted therapy. You try letting a certified therapy alpaca rest at the foot of your bed. It sneezes at 2 a.m. and ruins everything. You journal. You meditate. You do breathing exercises while submerged in a flotation tank filled with imported Dead Sea minerals. Nothing works. Because here's the thing no one tells you. When the mind doesn't want to rest, no amount of lavender oil, guided meditation or chakra-thumping gong music can force it. Your body's tired, your spirit is tired, but your brain? It's doing cartwheels in a stadium of doubt. And so the parade of sleep whisperers marches on. Consultants come and go, each leaving behind a trail of crystals, herbal sachets, and vaguely hopeful emails. They tell you to stay positive. They tell you rest is just around the corner. But the truth is, the only corner you're turning is into another sleepless night, now smelling faintly of eucalyptus and disappointment. The lights go up, the music thunders, and everyone expects perfection. Your comeback tour is billed as historic, but every rehearsal is another marathon. You're dancing on sore feet, rehearsing late into the night, and living on adrenaline and the distant memory of sleep. The only thing more relentless than the choreography is the clock. This is it, they call it. The final act. The triumphant return. 44 shows in London, sold out in a matter of hours. It's your legacy on a loop, a living jukebox of the impossible. Fans are expecting magic. Producers are expecting miracles. And you? You're just trying to remember what your knees used to feel like. Rehearsals begin early and end later. The stage is a battlefield, and every move is a war between your muscle memory and your actual muscles. You glide, you spin, you hit your mark, you smile. And then, the moment the music stops, you lean against the wall like a man whose bones have filed a complaint with HR. You're not 20 anymore, or 30, or even 40 to be honest. But the expectation remains. You will move like you always have. That your body, after years of sleep deprivation, surgeries, stress, and something suspiciously close to time travel, will still obey you. So you rehearse harder. You rehearse until the mirrors blur and the stage lights feel like interrogation beams. Everyone around you is excited, buzzing. The dancers are young, electric, hyped on protein bars and optimism. The choreographers speak in exclamation points. The band tightens every note. You nod along, exhausted, your smile slightly delayed. Your days blur into a relentless schedule. Wake up, eventually. Hydrate, barely. Rehearse, intensely. Recover, not at all. Then try to sleep, which is of course the most unrealistic item on the list. The show must go on, they say, but the show has become your life. You rehearse not just the songs, but the gestures, the glances, the precise tilt of your hat. It's not performance, it's resurrection. You're bringing back the man the world remembers, whether your body likes it or not. Your insomnia worsens, of course. Pressure has that effect. The more they cheer, the more you worry. The more they believe in you, the more you wonder if you're worthy of it. You can't turn off the noise in your head, not even when the lights go out and the room is finally still. So you rehearse more. There's always something to tweak, a move to clean, a spotlight to reposition, a note to hit with just a little more pain behind it. You obsess over the details, because the details are all that keep you from unraveling. If you can perfect the show, maybe you can outrun the exhaustion. Maybe you can delay the moment when your body says no more. Backstage, your dressing room becomes a bunker. Ice packs, tiger balm, vitamins, an IV drip, a portable oxygen tank. Someone suggests you install a cot. Someone else suggests you install a backup dancer to stand in for you. You smile. You keep going. This is the show of a lifetime, the producer says, and you nod, because it is. Maybe not for them, but for you. It really is the show of a lifetime, the last one. And still, as the curtain drops each night on rehearsal, you stay behind, pacing the stage alone, replaying steps until your feet scream and your pulse forgets its own rhythm. You are the comeback. You are the show. You are the machine that refuses to break down until it does. But for now, There's one more run through, and then another, and then another. Because even legends have to rehearse, especially when the dream they're chasing never lets them rest. So tonight, as you finally drift off, maybe in a real bed, maybe with nothing stronger than a cup of herbal tea, take a long, grateful breath. You didn't have to hire a team of doctors just to fall asleep. You didn't have to keep one eye open for tabloid helicopters, or measure out your bedtime in milligrams and IV lines. Your biggest worry is probably whether you left your phone charger on the other side of the room, not whether your anesthesiologist remembered to check your pulse. Michael Jackson's last nights were a surreal, cautionary fairy tale about what happens when fame, medicine and exhaustion form a truly terrible supergroup. His quest for rest was legendary, tragic, and, let's face it, completely absurd. The King of Pop showed us that even with all the talent, money and moonwalking in the world, you can't buy a good night's sleep if you've lost your grip on what actually matters. Maybe that's the real lesson. Perfection is exhausting. The spotlight never shuts off. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is just let yourself rest, without the drama, without the headlines, without a hospital cart parked next to your pillow. So as you tuck in tonight, send a quiet thank you to whatever simple, humble comforts you have. Soft sheets, a silent phone, a body that knows when to slow down. Because history is full of people who went to outrageous lengths just to do what you're about to do. Fall asleep, peacefully, no audience required. And if your mind starts to wander, remember, you don't need to moonwalk through your problems. Sometimes it's okay to just close your eyes and let the world spin without you for a while. Good night and sweet dreams.